Welcome to Not My Mother's Baking. I am Chef Sarah and today we're making Not My Mother's Churros. Why is it called Not My Mother's Churros? Well, my mother doesn't make churros. So, we have plain flour and brown sugar. You could use white sugar, but brown sugar gives the churros a darker color and also a stronger flavor. 3 whole eggs, vanilla essence. This is something that my mother always puts in all her recipes that contain egg to cut off the egginess of the recipe. Then I also have salted butter, water. We're going to use Rempah Kek Lapis, or also known as spice for layered cake. It is a spice blend of a few spices. There's cinnamon, nutmeg, there's a bit of cardamom, cloves in there. If you use milk, you'll get a more tender and softer churro. Why? Milk actually has milk fat in it, which will make it more tender. So if you're using water, you'll get a crispier end product. That's what we want, crispy churros. So I'm going to start by putting the butter into the pot, water, brown sugar, a pinch of the Rempah Kek Lapis, and then we have the vanilla essence. I'm going to put in a few drops. Now we bring everything to a boil. Now, you might be wondering why my pot is so big compared to the contents, which are very little inside. If I were to use a smaller pot, later on when it boils over and I'm going to put in the flour, it's going to be a big mess if my pot is not big enough. So always prepare a pot that is bigger. Wait for it to come up to a full boil. Not simmering, full boil. Next will be the flour. The goal is to dry out the dough. Press down the dough to touch the surface of the pan for 2 reasons. One is to make sure that the lumps are completely gone and you get the dough to dry thoroughly all throughout. Make sure when you mix, you scrape the bottom so that the dough does not burn. So once it's sufficiently dried out, okay, it becomes like a dough. I'm going to take it off the heat, switch to a plastic spatula, move this to the mixer. We don't want to incorporate any air, that's why we're using the paddle attachment. Now, 2 things to take note. You have to make sure that the mixture is cool before you add the eggs so that the eggs don't end up cooked before it gets mixed in. Okay, super important. Second, the reason why I'm cracking the eggs into a bowl first is because we will have to see the texture of the mixture. Sometimes 2 eggs are enough, sometimes you need the 3rd egg. I'm going to turn it up to high speed. So this is where I can hear my mother's voice saying, scrape the bowl, scrape the bowl. You know, she's always hounding me about scraping the bowl, which is super important to make sure that you get a nice homogeneous consistency, right? Okay. Now, how do you know if it's the correct texture? Normally for cream puffs and eclairs, you would need a very magma-like texture. What does that mean? It means that it's super liquid and it's easy for you to pipe. For churros, you would need something that is a bit more thick, like a paste, so that it holds its shape when you pipe it and you fry it later on. Now I have a piping bag already fitted with a star nozzle. I'm just going to take half of the batch first to put it into the piping bag so it's easier to control. I have a baking tray with silicone paper. I'm going to use the method where I pipe it out onto the tray, allow it to chill, and then I fry it. The other method would be to actually directly squeeze it into the hot oil, but you will not get straight churros. So I'm done piping the churros onto the tray. I'll put this in the chiller for a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to prepare the dusting sugar for the churros as well as heat up the oil for frying. Churro sticks have already been frozen beforehand. Now, it doesn't have to be fully frozen like rock hard, okay? It just has to be chilled enough for you to handle and for it to maintain its shape when you hold it and you drop it into the oil. Once it's nice and golden brown, it's ready to be tossed in the sugar and rempah mixture. To make sure that it's fully coated, you can serve it as it is or serve it with dipping chocolate at the side, and you have a very simple yet tasty snack for the afternoon.
Action!
Hi, welcome to Not My Mother's Baking.
Look at that.
Catch our film Not My Mother's Baking
Screening exclusively at Film God Cineplexes now! Not My Mother's Baking is made possible thanks to our major sponsor, City's Delights.
Pure quality indulgence.